Hey everyone, this is Casual Fanatic.
Film reviews without the shoes.
I'm Luca, your casual viewer.
And I'm Cayman, your fanatic. How is it going, Luca?
It came in. Full transparency. For me, the last 2 weeks have been absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
But it's going. I'm, handling it day by day. Every morning is always really bad. But, I meditate and try to just work through it and get past, all the emotional bullshit.
Yeah.
Emotional, mental stuff thanks to work. But yeah, I'm just going. I had my birthday on the 7th, and that's good. I'm 26 now, so I'm older.
Did you do anything special for your birthday?
I honestly didn't know. So Sydney moved to Colorado, and so I've been hanging out with Sydney a lot.
Yeah.
And that was like she moved on Wednesday, and my birthday was on Friday, so I was just helping her move in, basically.
Okay.
And we were getting stuff, and her parents were still here, so it was nice and relaxing. And then over my birthday weekend, I went to a place called Free Play, Colorado. I think that's what it's called.
Okay.
But yeah, it was her birthday as well. It was like another friend from a volleyball group, and I went to like this cabin like 2 hours away for like a day, and then we went to Breckenridge, and then I just kind of had fun there for the day, and then I came back and hung out with Sydney. Yeah, it was a good weekend, except for the fact that all these troubles and stuff started literally the week before, and then I had a really bad conversation on October 6th, the day before my birthday, with the principals. But that's gotten a lot better, at work and stuff, but I'm still like, dude, I don't know what happened, but it just hit me in like such a deep core spot that I've never like been hit in before, and it just really it hurt a lot. It destroyed me. But I'm, being proactive and, looking for opportunities and stuff like that. So that's just, my sad tale of honesty. What about you?
Things have been pretty average around here, I guess. Especially in terms of work. Nothing super special, positive or negative. It's just been kind of same old.
Nice. Well, that's better than, same hell living in hell.
Yeah.
Man.
I think, well, I honestly don't remember, because things have gotten so messy with recording and stuff. I don't remember the last time we recorded, if that was before or after we went backpacking.
I think it was before. I'm not sure, but explain what happened. How you went backpacking?
If I listened to the last episode and we talked about backpacking, then I'll just cut it out for this episode. But like 2 weeks ago, Elaine and I went backpacking down in southern Arkansas, and we hiked about 30 miles over Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Wow. Yeah.
And there were like 6.5 mountains.
Jeez Louise. And that was your first big hike, right?
Yeah, it was absolutely wild. And the second night, I was like literally dying, because the second day was our longest day. So we hiked the farthest and had to deal with the most mountains on that day.
Yeah.
But then like on top of all of that, we didn't, I guess, pack enough snacks. Like we had like lunch and dinner for each day, but lunch was like usually really light stuff, like an apple and like a granola bar or some stuff like that.
Yeah, lunch. Yeah.
But most of the like throughout the day snacks that we had were very sugary stuff. Like we had like a bag full of candy and like some really sweet Pop-Tarts and apple pies and things like that, which like makes sense like on the surface, because it's like obviously we're burning a lot of calories, so you need a lot of calories, and sugar is a lot of calories without adding a bunch of weight to our backpacks.
Yeah.
But like it just, after a while, I just could not handle sweets anymore. Like sugary stuff was just made me feel sick.
Oh gosh.
And
that was on the trip.
Yeah. And we each had like a thing of chips. I packed some Doritos and Elena packed some Pringles, but those were our only savory snacks. And after they ran out about halfway through the second day and we like just had sugary stuff left, I started feeling so bad, and I was like, by the time we got to our campsite, I was starving. And so we hurry up and made dinner, and I like, when you get so hungry that like eating makes you nauseous.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So I was like, I knew that I was hungry, but then when I was like trying to eat our dinner, I like every bite I took, I had to like force swallow it because it just did not feel good.
Man. What? Oh God. What was the food that you were eating?
That night we had chana masala and mashed potatoes.
So nothing easy to eat.
But there's like you can get these little like dehydrated food bags that are like for backpacking, and then you just like add boiling water to it and let it sit for a bit.
Yeah. Damn.
So yeah, we did that, but and the mashed potatoes were delicious, and honestly the chana masala wasn't bad, but I just like, it was very hard for me to eat that night, and then I was having like stomach cramps. Even I woke up in the middle of the night because I like felt like I was gonna vomit. It was awful.
No way. Yeah,
but
that does not sound like a happy second day right there.
But the third day was much better. I definitely still like got pretty hungry by the end because obviously we still didn't have any food for the third day. But I think we ended up getting back to our car around like 8 or 9.
Wow, that's
and
late.
then we still had like a 3.5 hour drive to get back home.
Oh God, damn. So what lessons did you guys learn from that hike for next time?
Need more food. Need more savory food, to be specific.
Okay. When you say sweets, what kind of sweets did you guys have with?
Well, that's like what I was saying earlier, candy and Pop-Tarts and apple pies and stuff.
Oh God, okay. I see. Yeah, that does not sound that sounds tough.
Yeah.
And there was obviously nowhere where you could have stopped and just gotten food or like bought food.
No, we were like out in the wilderness. There was like, we did cross, there were 2 areas where there was like a proper campsite that had like actual restrooms, and like even one of them had like a bridge across the river and stuff like that. And there were like more developed areas, but it was still like, it's in a national park, so they didn't have like restaurants there or anything. It was just like, here's a spot for you to go to the bathroom.
Wow.
And a parking lot.
Damn. Well, did you guys at least see good nature stuff and the animals and whatnot?
Actually, not too many animals. We saw quite a few armadillos when we were like lower down elevation.
Yeah.
But mostly bugs, and out of the bugs, mostly walking sticks. There were a lot of walking sticks there. It was crazy.
Oh wow. Well, as long as it's not mostly spiders, that's a good thing.
At least 3 times we would just be walking along and like a walking stick would literally jump onto me.
What? Damn, okay.
Yeah, they were crazy. They were everywhere.
Do you like walking sticks, or do they weird you out?
No, they're pretty cute.
Yeah, they're pretty cute. I agree. Damn. Well, that's awesome, Cayman. That sounds like an experience and one that you can learn a lot from.
For sure. And I mean, we're excited to go backpacking again at some point in the future, but it will definitely be probably a shorter trail, and not so many mountains would help as well.
Yeah, I'm surprised you guys started off with a 3-day trip. That's a big chunk right there.
when we were looking at trails online, the first one that popped up, because it is a loop, and so I was like, oh, a loop might be fun, because like a lot of trails you either have to like go out and then come back, which is like, no one wants to see the same stuff twice, or you like ahead of time like drop a car off at the end of the trail, and then you just like hike the trail and then drive back to the beginning and just do it one way.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, like a loop will be easy, because then we just walk, and then eventually we're back at our car and problem solved.
Yeah.
But it was a very long loop, and even like on the website that we were looking on, it said that the difficulty was hard, and we were like, we can do it.
I mean, you guys did do it,
Yeah.
I mean, would you say the difficulty of the trail was hard, or do you think your packing just made it hard?
The trail, it's hard for backpacking. There were people out there that like we saw some reviews of people that were like, yeah, I just like went out there early in the morning and hiked all 27 and a half miles in one day. And I was like,
What?
that's insane. But
Oh my god. Okay. Well, an animal.
but yeah, if you're like carrying, because our backpacks were, I want to say like 27 pounds. So when you're carrying that much weight for 30 miles,
Yeah, that's a
then
lot.
it definitely increases the difficulty versus if you're just like out there with your body.
Right, right. And you had Sydney, your dog, with you there too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did she do on the trail? Did she love the whole thing, or did you tell at one point she was kind of sick of it?
She definitely gets tired pretty easily, but she bounced back. During the, because obviously like in the beginning we started off with like all of her food and snacks and water in. She has like her own kind of like I guess saddlebag sort of thing like that
Right.
attaches to her harness so that she can carry some stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously with that extra weight, like she definitely also felt it. And every time we went up a mountain, she was like dragging behind and not trying to do it. But towards the end, as her bag got lighter and like especially every time we got close to any water, she always gets excited about water, even if she was like
Mhm.
we could spend 20 minutes letting her play around in a creek, and if we walked 5 minutes and found another creek, she would be just as excited. Like she just loves playing around in water.
I love that.
But yeah, I feel like the last day when like her bag was pretty much empty and we were done with the mountains, so the rest of the trail was like pretty flat. She was a lot more just like running around sniffing stuff, like being a normal dog.
Yeah. Versus before, she was just literally following you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay. Well, awesome. What movie are we talking about? I guess we can transfer to that now.
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about the 2019 movie Avengers Endgame, directed by Anthony and Joe Russo and written by Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely.
Okay. Okay. This was an extremely long movie.
Yes, it was almost exactly 3 hours.
Yeah.
But I
Freaking
also noticed
long.
last time I was watching it, there's like almost 15 full minutes of credits. So
Wow. Really?
yeah, a lot of people worked on this movie. So
Yeah, I actually, that's true. I did kind of like fast forward through it. I was waiting for I was looking for there to be a an
yeah.
extra scene or something like that, and there wasn't.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah,
so,
no, there's at the end of this movie, there's like a little sound clip that we can talk about later, but there's not like a whole scene or anything.
oh, there's a sound clip.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't know that because I was fast forwarding through it. I didn't hear anything.
That's all right.
Oh well. I
But
guess
yeah,
I missed
so
the sound clip.
this movie had an estimated budget of $356 million, and opening weekend it actually made 357 million, and then worldwide it made almost 2.8 billion.
Dude, wow. Now that's definitely the most any Avengers movie had made thus
Yeah.
far.
It was the most any movie had made. It might still be, but it up until Endgame, the highest grossing movie in the entire world was Titanic, which came out in, I want to say either 95 or like 97 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But Titanic was the highest grossing movie of all time for
2.2 billion. I see
for
it.
a long ass time. And then yeah, Endgame is the movie that finally ended up beating it. They kind of, I won't say cheated, because if people are going to the movie and spending money like that, I don't know, but they did have 2 theatrical releases.
What
So
does that add into it?
well, yeah, because the like worldwide like the numbers that we're going over is just like from people going to a movie theater and seeing the movie.
Right. Okay.
And so they like had the movie in theaters for a while, and then it ended, and then like later on they put it back in theaters and more people went and saw it.
Oh, interesting. That's a tactic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was actually never the number one grossing movie. Avatar, which came out in 2009, beat it by like 100 million. 103
Oh, was
million.
it? Oh, I thought it beat
Yeah.
Avatar too. I forgot about Avatar, honestly.
Yeah, Avatar is 2.9, and this one, so Avatar is 2.923, and this one's 2.797.
Okay, so maybe it was
So,
like it was Titanic, and then James Cameron beat his own movie with Avatar, and then Endgame beat Titanic.
yeah. Wow. Is this, wait, Avatar and Avengers, is that the same director?
Avatar and Avatar and Titanic are the same director.
Avatar and Titanic. Okay. Wow, that's impressive. Damn. Avengers Infinity War is number 5, and then The Avengers is number 9. Wow, these Avengers movies, and then Ultron, Age of Ultron is number 13. Wow, these Avengers movies really made a lot of money. Impressive.
Or hold on. Okay, no. So when Endgame beat Titanic, it was the highest grossing film of all time. But then I think they re-released Avatar as well. At some point, Avatar overtook Endgame again.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because there's like there is like headlines and stuff like Avengers Endgame is now the highest grossing film of all time, and it even said dethroned Avatar. So they did beat Avatar at one point, and then Avatar, I guess they must have put it back in theaters if they ended up retaking the top spot.
Yeah, they must have, but I don't remember a time when Avatar was back.
Me either.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. Interesting. Cool though. Good for them. Making money even after it was released for a few years.
Yeah. So quick Marvel minute. In between Infinity War and Endgame, there were actually 2 other Marvel movies. There was Ant-Man and the Wasp, which came out in July of 2018, and Captain Marvel, which came out in March of 2019.
Okay. I'm guessing you've watched both of those?
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on them? Just quickly.
Captain Marvel was all right. It definitely wasn't a bad movie, but they're just like, it's probably not one I'm going to revisit.
Gotcha.
Ant-Man and the Wasp I thought was nice. Same sort of energy as the first Ant-Man film. And I know, I don't know if you ended up ever doing it or not, but I do remember last time mentioning that it would probably be a good idea for you to watch at least the end credit sequence from Ant-Man and the Wasp.
You did tell me to do that, and I definitely did not do that. I forgot.
So, yeah, we'll get into it, but the end credit sequence from that movie is showing Scott Lang and Hank Pym and that whole team have created a like a quantum portal, whatever thing they call it, inside the back of a truck. And the end credit sequence is them like testing out going into the quantum realm. And so they send Scott into the quantum realm, and because like that whole movie is about exploring. Did we watch the original Ant-Man? I don't even remember.
No, we did not.
Okay. Well, basic story for both of the Ant-Man movies is Hank Pym was the original Ant-Man, but at some point, his wife, who was the Wasp, had to shrink down to a subatomic level in order to deactivate a missile. And there was like, they explain it better in the movie, but basically like once you shrink down to a certain size, you just like keep shrinking, and you can't turn big again. So he lost his wife because she just like shrunk into infinity. And then so he stopped being Ant-Man. Once Scott gets the Ant-Man suit and all of that stuff that happens in the first movie, in this movie they discover a way to get to the quantum realm, and they find Hank Pym's wife there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Do they get her out safely?
Yeah. And so they get her out, and then, but it's like complete, like, it's very difficult for them to figure out how they figured out how to get there in the first place. But then after all of like a bunch of experimentation and stuff, they figure out a way to purposely go to the quantum realm. And so they're experimenting with that in the end credit sequence, and they send Scott to the quantum realm. And then before they can get him back out, everyone else except for Scott gets dusted by the snap.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So then he's trapped.
That already happened in The Ant-Man movie, the dusting.
Well, because that movie is after Infinity War.
I see. Okay. It always blows my mind sometimes how like they plan ahead for different movies to have, you know, parts come into the new movies.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. That makes sense then with how Ant-Man comes around in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we will get to that. But first, what did you think about Endgame?
You know, I thought it was a good movie. I enjoyed it actually. I didn't know if I was going to enjoy it. But
you didn't really enjoy Infinity War, so it's interesting
I don't know.
that you liked this one.
Yeah, there's something different about this one. I can't put a finger on it, but you know, I was watching it and I didn't think, like, to me, everything that was going on really made sense, if that makes sense. Because I think they were on like that time crunch to get the stones and all that jazz. I mean, they only there are of course a few negatives with like the amount of time they spent planning things and stuff like that, and you know, the lack of planning that we see. But I think overall it was a fun watch. Maybe a little bit long, but I do understand why it's that long.
Yeah.
Because they had to pull in scenes from the first movie to get like the third person aspect of that scene in this movie. So yeah, it was good. What about you? What did you think?
I thought that it was good. I also really liked this one, and I again, same sort of thing that I was talking about with Infinity War. I like said this before, but I love watching characters interact with each other.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of that happening in this movie as well.
There was, yeah. Like almost all of them interacted with each other, I feel like.
Yeah.
But it was a good time. It was also a very good storyline, the way they, you know, the build up of it. It was just good. It was like very good movie planning, I would say.
So I think let's go ahead and put our spoiler warning here before we get into our game, just because I don't know if the description is going to be spoilery or not.
Okay. Well, you want me to do that real quick here?
Let's do it.
This is the spoiler section. If you don't want the movie to be spoiled, don't listen.
And we're back.
Indeed.
Now you know that was the big old red flag. Yeah.
All right. Well then, with that said, let's step into the boxing ring.
Oh Lord have mercy. Okay. Do you want to go first?
Sure. I think at some point we really need to like start properly keeping track of who goes first each time.
Honestly, true. That is so true.
Okay. I'll go first. I will say after Thanos wipes out half of the universe, the Avengers try to find him in order to reverse the snap. But when they find him, they realize they are too late. So they must come up with a new plan to fix the past. I don't really know where I'm going with this. I'll just stop there.
Okay. I would. Oh, sorry, Chewie just jumped on me. I would say the aftermath of Thanos's half wipe of the universe left Thor and the Avengers yearning for a way to the past. After Ant-Man surprisingly comes back through the quantum realm, the Avengers and the universe band together in order to rewrite their future.
That's good.
That's me. Damn, that sounded really good when it came out of my mouth. I don't know. I was like, nice. Or the most concise one I've had.
All right, this one says, after the devastating events of Avengers Infinity War, the universe is in ruins due to the efforts of the Mad Titan Thanos. With the help of remaining allies, the Avengers must assemble once more in order to undo Thanos' actions and restore order to the universe once and for all, no matter what consequences may be in store.
Okay.
Interesting. Very light on the spoilers. Doesn't really talk about anything.
It doesn't say anything, yeah.
Maybe it's just like, hey, Thanos did a thing, and everyone else has to undo that thing now.
Yeah, that's literally what it said. The Avengers fight Thanos again, because the last movie is literally what it said. Well, it did say universe. I said universe, and it mentioned Avengers and Thanos.
Universe and Avengers and Thanos.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's pretty even. What do you think?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I might just call this one a tie. Neither of us really did that good on this one.
No. But then again, they were very light on what they'd said.
If we had, if either of us had said Mad Titan, I think that would have taken it. Or if either of us had mentioned Avengers Infinity War.
Yeah, but like, why would you want to mention Avengers Infinity War?
Some movie descriptions are like that.
Yeah. See, I didn't know that. I thought they would just talk about the movie, schmack the movie. Okay.
Interesting.
Well, tie it is. Good game.
Good game.
Good game. Good game.
All right, well, let's take a quick break and then we'll get into some deeper comments.
Let's do it.
Well, let's get into it then. We've already done our spoiler review, so
everyone knows.
Be prepared.
Yeah. Well, let's just I kind of wanted to go into like the whole movie kind of aspect of it. The soundtrack was so good. Like right off the bat. I didn't do research into who did the soundtrack, but that shit was fire. It was so good.
I'm sure it was Alan Silvestri. He usually does the music for the Avengers movies.
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to start off with that. Soundtrack was beautiful, and the opening scene was like a great song. And then the visuals were all also like quite amazing with Stark's ship in space stranded. Amazing detail, and like Stark did a great job in selling this whole scene. And like really getting the audience to like feel for him. Yeah.
And his like another one of those like talking about characters interacting with each other, just like watching Tony and Nebula just like being alone on the ship, and they like do the little finger football for a while, and you like see little clips of them. Obviously, Tony's a genius, and Nebula is like she's more familiar with space, so she has like knowledge that he might not have, but also he can figure stuff out really quickly. And so there are like shots of them both like modifying the ship and like tweaking certain things so that like the life support systems last a little bit longer. They're trying to like push every second of time they can get out of being stuck on this ship.
Right. And to refresh the audience, why were they stuck on the ship in the first place?
Because they were on the planet Titan, which is where they fought Thanos at the end of Infinity War. Mm-hmm. But everyone that was with them, all of the other Guardians, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, was anyone else with them? I think that was it. But yeah, pretty much everyone else except for Tony and Nebula got snapped away. So it was just those two. Yeah.
Yeah, and so they got on their ship and they basically were in a battle with the ship, and then they somehow managed to, jump away from the enemy fleet and were stranded.
Wait, when were they in a ship battle?
I don't know, but Tony said it. That's why their ship was damaged. I don't remember when they were in a battle.
I think that was before.
Prior to, yeah.
I think that like the ship was damaged before they got to Titan.
Okay, yeah, and then they just kind of ran out of juice, I guess. And then, like what did he say?
And they said they were stuck there for 22 days.
Yeah, like 11 million light years away from Earth.
Something like that.
Like the closest Taco Bell or something like that. He said. That's how he made it. Yeah. And they really made Tony Stark look like he was malnourished, and like they really, really, really put a lot of effort into that. Like his eyes were bloodshot, which is what happens when the oxygen number is low, and all that jazz.
And you can like, I definitely remember. Obviously, like I don't know, you don't when you're immersed in the movie, you don't think about certain things, and so I feel like I knew beforehand, like from an outside of the movie perspective, like it would be absolutely ridiculous for Tony Stark to die in the first 15 minutes of the movie, but they pace that scene so well where like he leaves the message for Pepper, and then he is just like laying there for a while and like really holds on him, and then you see Nebula come and like pick him up and put him in the chair.
The captain's chair.
Just like and he just like sits there for so long, and you're like, oh my god, is Tony dying like literally right now? But then he ends up both of them end up getting saved by Captain Marvel. But Yeah, I remember, especially when I was watching it in the theater, like they hold on that shot for an unbearable amount of time.
Yeah, a really long amount of time. And all of a sudden there's like this light that somehow wakes Tony up. I'm not quite sure how it
Yeah.
did that. And it was her, the savior, their savior.
Mm-hmm. And
Which-
even sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, which like how did she find him? Because she
There's
just zoomed around the
probably
solar
some
system.
sort of homing beacon on the ship or something like that.
Oh, okay. I'd hope so. Yeah. Oh, that would make sense. But damn, can't believe she like grabbed that ship and then he made it back to Earth in time with that low oxygen
I don't know
level.
how fast she was
She
flying,
can travel. Yeah.
but yeah.
Must have been really fucking fast though.
Yeah. But yeah, another thing before this scene even is, so not even most, all of the Avengers movies, I think up to this point, have like the movie starts and you start off with like the orchestral score and like the Marvel Studios logo and all that. This movie starts with a cold open on Hawkeye's farm with his family.
Oh yeah.
And I thought that scene was a great way to like just immediately throw everyone back into the mood. Like you have at the end of Infinity War, you have this certain feeling where you're watching everyone like blow away in the wind, and it's like very emotional. But then obviously there was 2 movies in between these two, and so like it's hard to sort of balance that tone. And especially like Ant-Man is more of a fun movie, and then you have like Captain Marvel, which is this whole other thing. But then you get back to Endgame, and the first scene is just like immediate gut punch to remind you of like how devastating this thing was.
Yeah. I mean, I was confused at that opening scene because I didn't exactly know what was going on, and then all the people disappeared and stuff. But you could definitely tell like the emotional aspect that it had on him specifically, which is what also then set him up for what he was doing later on in the movie, which was just going around Earth and killing all the bad guys in like a disturbing way and just leaving them there.
Yeah.
Like a butcher almost. He was a butcher.
Because he like in his mind can't, like, obviously that was the whole point, that Thanos was like, he didn't want to pick and choose who survived. It was just like absolute random 50%. Like whoever makes it, and whoever doesn't. But Clint Hawkeye sort of feels that it's unfair that all of these like mafia and cartel and yakuza and all of these big gangs around the world, like why did they get to survive well, like his family didn't?
Right.
And so he pretty much is just like going around the world killing a bunch of gangsters.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and we do get to see that at one point. A very cool scene of him doing that. But yeah, kills a lot of dudes.
But yeah, the first probably like 30 minutes of the movie is just like very emotional. You see Hawkeye lose his family, you see Tony Stark almost die, and then even once they get rescued and get back to Earth, there's like a moment of reflection, and you see everyone just like consoling each other. And there's even like a short moment with Rocket and Nebula, who are the only Guardians left, and they just like hold each other's hand, and it's just like it's all very touching. And I don't know, I like, there were definitely, not only in this opening but throughout the movie, there were definitely a couple times when I cried, because I'm a huge crybaby.
No, I'm with you, dude. This movie was so emotional.
Yeah,
it was so emotional. Like I'm with you on that. Like I did cry too a few times during this movie and like tear up,
especially
and like huff
any
and puff.
time where like anything that involved either like a parent losing their kid or a kid losing their parent, like that kind of stuff really gets me.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of this movie.
Like a lot of it. Yeah. And like one of those scenes was with Thor and his mom when he went back in time.
Yeah.
That was a heart-wrenching scene right there.
And he just like, he wanted to just like seeing the amount of wisdom that she had, where he's like, he couldn't bring himself to go talk to Jane. He just like had to talk to his mom. And he was like, I have to tell you something. And she's like, no, you don't have to tell me anything. You're here to fix your future, not mine.
Right. And she already knew. Like she was like, it looks like the future isn't treating you well.
Yeah. And I just like, again, it's just so, I absolutely love everything that's happening with Thor, because, and I know it was obviously pretty funny the first time I saw it, but like even just the idea of like Thor being fat now.
Yeah.
It's like super funny, but at the same time, it just like reminds you out of literally every Avenger, like Thor has lost more than anyone else. He lost his entire planet. He lost his brother, his dad, his mom, and then half of his kingdom, which is like not even like for other people because, and they discuss this like later on in the movie, but like the snap is different from like all of the killing that Thanos was doing before. And so if Thanos snaps and half your planet disappears, those people can be brought back. But he didn't snap the Asgardians away. After Thor Ragnarok, remember he blew up their ship and like
right.
They physically killed half of the Asgardians.
Yeah.
And so those Asgardians are not coming back.
Yeah, that's hard. Yeah, I didn't think of it in that depth, but now that you mention it, what a fucking poor dude, you know?
Yeah.
Poor Thor. So like he already lost half due to the ship incident, right? And then he snapped, and then he lost another half of the surviving few, right?
Yeah, that's another thing. I think Thanos probably would have had the foresight to not include planets that he's already halved. Because we see like flashbacks and stuff from Infinity War about how like for a long time he was just like going planet to planet and killing half of like that's even in the flashback from when he from Gamora's planet when he found little baby Gamora, he killed half of the people on that planet as well. But because his goal is for everything to be balanced, I think when he snapped, he probably had it in his head that any of the planets that he had already killed half the population, he wouldn't take another half. Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was like a blanket kind of snap to where now everyone boof half.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah. But I just thought that seeing the intense trauma that Thor has been through, it makes sense that he would just lock himself away and eat a bunch of ice cream, drink a bunch of beer, and play video games. Like he's legit depressed.
Yeah, he's down bad. I feel for him, I really do.
Yeah.
But I mean, he did play it off. Like his acting throughout the whole movie was just great.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, Chris Hemsworth does he always manages to find, I think, a really good balance between being super, super sad, but then also can like still be funny every once in a while.
Yeah, throw some humility in there. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, like you go into his place. I guess we can. I don't know. I don't want to start talking about it just yet, but we'll get there. Let's see here. So back. I'm gonna roll back a bit. When Stark finally came back and they had like that, that conversation where Stark was, mad at Captain because he wasn't there when when they lost the battle and all that jazz.
Yeah.
And Tony took off his chest module and gave it to him, and it was like, just put this on him and I'll take care of it or something like that. And then he fainted. Why did Tony faint there? I thought he already had his chest fixed.
No, it wasn't the chest thing. It was just he is high stress and he's still like recovering. Like he ripped the IV out of his arm, so he's probably super dehydrated, doesn't have enough nutrients, but he like just isn't taking care of his body and recovering the way that he should be.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, they just made it look like he took it off his chest, handed it to him, and then he fucking fainted. I thought that the cause was him taking the, what is it called? I don't even know.
The arc reactor.
The arc reactor off his chest because, prior in the first movies, the reason he had it in the first place was to hold the metal fragments away from his heart.
Right.
But then I know at one point he had surgery to get them taken out.
Yeah. And I think you can even see briefly when he takes the new one off of his chest, you can see the scar from where the old one was.
Right. Yeah, you can. Yeah. But okay, well that clears it up. Yeah, it makes sense. I just wish they would have played that a bit differently, but I guess there was no other way to do it anyways.
But yeah, so they end up like once everyone gets back together and they're like, hey, we figured out where Thanos is. If we can go and get the Infinity Stones, maybe we can reverse this.
Yeah.
And
wait, can we pause real quick before we go to that? They're all in that room huddled together, right? And there was big drama because no one knew where he was. Tony got that off his chest that I don't know where he is. I don't have any plans, nothing. And they're like going at it for a while, and then all of a sudden someone is there and they're like, oh yeah, we know where he is because he used the stones 2 days ago, and then boom, they knew where he was.
Yeah.
Why was there so much drama at the start of them not knowing where he is and like grilling
Well, because
Stark
I think
and all that jazz?
when they were arguing about not knowing where he is, Nebula wasn't in the room, and she's the one that knew where he was.
Oh, was it Nebula that knew where he was? I thought that other guy did too, because he pulled it up on his computer.
No, Nebula was like, I know where he's going because he talked about it. He said he's going to go to the garden. And so they don't really do a great job of explaining it, but the way that I understood it was like Nebula knew the planet that he was going to be on, and then Rocket was able to sort of do like some sort of a scan of that planet, and then they confirmed that he was there because they saw that the stones had been used on that planet.
So that's how it went. Okay. See, I had thought that Rocket already knew because he had already scanned the universe and he found it. And then she came in there. She was like, I know where he is. And then Rocket was like, oh yeah, it's here because of this. Okay, that would make sense.
Yeah, I think scanning every planet in the universe would take way too long, but Nebula already knew, and so they could be like, oh, well, let's check this planet. And they're like, oh yeah, the stones were used here.
Okay, gotcha. That would clear that up. All right, continue.
But I think one of my favorite, if not my number one favorite shot in this movie is when they're all on the ship and Rocket's like, all right, who hasn't been to space? And like half of them raise their hands. And then once they jump into hyperspace or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
There's a close-up shot of Steve Rogers, and you can like see like the entire universe reflected in his eyes, and A+ cinematography right there. I loved that shot.
I don't think I saw that shot, or it didn't register in my brain, but I can imagine it. Damn. Okay. Yeah. And so they jump into hyperspace. They, are flying on the outside of this planet. And they like scan it, and there's no defenses, no armies, nothing. It's just him on this planet. And then they show like a shot of him of Thanos on this planet, like picking some vegetables or fruits or whatever you want to call them.
Yep.
And like eating them and stuff. And like his little lonely cabin. Yeah. It was kind of funny. I don't know.
But
like
yeah, they obviously go in there, and like you do get the sense, and I felt like I understood that even in the first movie, like Thanos, and we even talked about like the whole like story idea behind the first movie is that Thanos, although he is the bad guy, is kind of the main character in Infinity War. And you really see a lot of his mindset, and you realize that he, like any good villain, does not think that he's evil. He is trying to save the universe, and he believes sincerely that killing half of everyone in the universe is the only way to save the other half.
Right.
And so he's not in it for power. He's not trying to take over the universe or anything like that. He's like, nope, I did my job. I'm just going to go farm and relax for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. You see, he like hung up his armor as a scarecrow and just like making a stew. And then the Avengers bust in there, and once they get the gauntlet off of him, they realize that the stones aren't there, and they're like, we know that you used them 2 days ago. What's happening? And he's like, well, I blew him up, so sorry.
Which that kind of like counteracts some of the other movies, no? Because they said that these stones have to exist because of the universes or something, right? Or am I tripping?
They talk about the stones being missing in this movie a little bit, but I don't think it necessarily goes against any of the other movies. They're just like the Infinity Stones are like the primal forces of the universe.
Right.
And so in the way that the Ancient One describes it later in this movie is like they are sort of holding everything together. And so if you remove one of the Infinity Stones from a universe, then it invites in more chaos.
Right. And so now he destroyed all of them. So there's just chaos everywhere?
Yes. I don't really know, because I think there's a difference between like removing a stone to a different timeline versus just like, I don't know, maybe when he destroyed the stones, all of that energy is still in the universe. it's just like spread out.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Yeah. But I mean, the way they busted in there into his cabin and then like they chopped off his hand, right? His arm.
Yeah. So the first thing is Thor cuts off his arm that has the gauntlet on it. And then they're talking to him and he tells them that he destroyed the stones, and Thor ends up cutting his head off as well.
Yeah.
Because you could like tell like that is like Thanos even sort of taunted him about it the first time after he stabbed him in the chest. He was like, oh, you should have gone for the head. And so this time Thor's
this time he went for the head.
I went for the head.
Yeah. But I mean, they really sold that scene in that whole sequence of like, now there's no hope kind of thing.
Yeah. And then, oh my God, the shock of all shocks, definitely was not expecting this the first time I watched it, but they cut off Thanos' head and then they're like leaving, and then it cuts to a title card and it says 5 years later, and I was just like, what the fuck, like 5 years?
Yeah I mean, that just, at that point you're like, well, what the fuck's happening now, like
right.
The universe is fucked for good. Stones are gone, Thanos is no danger anymore.
And they're just like trying to make the best of it. And you see like, obviously, Natasha is like beating herself up about it. And so she's like stuck. She's like checking in with all the Avengers and she's just like, hey, just keeping an eye out. I'm always here if you need to call me or whatever. Yeah. And Cap is doing like little support groups for people that have lost loved ones.
Right. And
everyone's just like trying to live their life. But then as we alluded to earlier, Ant-Man is rescued by a rat who just happens to turn on
rat.
just happens to turn on the machine,
hit the right buttons and stuff.
Yeah. So honestly, entire universe saved by a rat.
Honestly, yeah. This rat needs to have like a gold medal.
But yeah, so
he gets freed and he's all confused and shit.
Yeah, because he says later for him it's only been a couple hours.
5 hours,
And so he goes and he finds there's like a huge memorial of all of the people that were lost, and he's like, oh my God, I hope my daughter isn't gone. And he finds his own name, and so he's really confused, and then goes back to his house. And this was another thing that made me cry, is when the reunion with him and his daughter, and obviously he's the same age and she's 5 years older, and there's just like this moment of, you can see that he's confused, but she obviously immediately recognized him, and then they hug. And it was a very emotional moment.
Yeah, and he was like, oh, you've grown so much, or something like that.
Yeah,
you look all grown up or something. Yeah, it was touching for sure. And of course Ant-Man is the one that introduced the quantum realm
right
into this movie, which is the hope factor.
Yeah, so he's like, obviously he's not a scientist, but he is like, time works differently down there, so maybe one of you smart people can figure out a way to use this for time travel.
Yeah.
And at first they go to Tony Stark, but he's like, I have a daughter now. I can't risk fucking up my past because I have a new future that I care about.
Yeah, one that he loves. And so he kind of like blows them off, and but of course, like Tony being Tony, he's gonna go back and do like his own tests in his house.
Yeah.
Which I guess he had been doing for, I don't know exactly how long it was that he was running these tests.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they make it seem as if he didn't start doing it until after they talked to him, but I don't know how much time there is between them going to his cabin and him figuring it out.
Yeah, I don't either, because it doesn't cut straight to him figuring it out, right? Or does it?
No. So after Tony says no, that's when they go to Banner, who has now merged his personality with the Hulk. He looks a lot more bannery than the Hulk. Yeah. So he's like, yeah, best of both worlds. I get to be super strong and super smart. But
it's good for him.
Yeah. But yeah, he like starts trying to help them with it, but they end up building it, and they're talking about like their way of describing time travel. I don't remember Hulk's exact words, but he he pretty much says, like, we're not actually traveling to the past. We're traveling to a different timeline. So, like, no matter what you do in the past, that's not going to change what happened to us. That's just going to change the future in that timeline.
Right. Yeah, they explain it in kind of a confusing way.
Yeah. But basically, it's like, you can't just, like, go back and kill Thanos in the past, because Thanos, like, everything that's happened to them has
It's now your
already
future.
happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he was
So
like,
he's like, if we went back and killed Thanos, like, sure, that might help those Avengers, but those Avengers are not us. That's like a different set of people in a different timeline.
right. So what he says to do is what exactly? Like,
so what they need to do is go to these other timelines, take the Infinity Stones back to this timeline, use them, and then bring them back to where they came from.
right. So they go back to their current timeline and then snap the finger to go back in time of their current timeline, rather
so
than
they
just
So they're not trying to, like, stop Thanos from snapping, because they can't. But if they get new Infinity Stones, then they can make a new snap and just undo it.
right.
So they end up splitting off. I think they do 3 different timelines. They go back to so it's Hawkeye, Black Widow, Nebula, and War Machine
Mm-hmm.
go to one timeline, and then they split up, and Nebula and War Machine go to Morag to get the Power Stone before Peter Quill takes it.
Yeah.
Natasha and Clint go to Vormir to get the Soul Stone, and then Hawkeye, Hulk, Iron Man, and Captain America go to 2012 New York City, which is during the first Avengers movie, because there are 3 time stones there at the same time.
Yeah.
Because the ancient one has the time stone, and then Loki's scepter is the mind stone, and the Tesseract is the space stone.
Right.
And then Rocket and Thor go back to the events of Thor 2, because that's where the reality stone is.
Mm-hmm. Damn, I'm impressed.
So that's
you
how
picked all that apart. Nice.
So that's how everyone splits up.
Wow. Yeah. So, which timeline is it again that Tony goes to and he meets his dad?
Right. So what happens is, in the 2012 timeline, they fuck up getting the Tesseract because and they set it up in kind of a funny way. Yeah, after they capture Loki and they put everyone on the elevator, but then Hulk tries to get on there, like, no, you're way too heavy, you need to take the stairs. And Hulk gets fucking pissed about it.
He's like, oh, I hate the stairs. He, like, punches the elevator doors.
Yeah. And so then they manage to, like, Tony grabs the suit. He's like dressed up as a guard or whatever. He grabs the suitcase with the Tesseract, and then Hulk, like, slams the door open and knocks him down. The Tesseract flies out of the suitcase, and then 2012 Loki grabs the Tesseract and fucks off out of there.
Yeah, which we don't know what happens with that Loki and that Tesseract, but
at this point, no. But
yeah,
it has after this movie, we do figure it out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we'll talk about that
one
later.
after this.
We will talk about that later.
Wait. There's a movie after this movie? I'm so confused.
There's a lot of stuff after this movie.
What the fuck is going on?
This movie came out 3 years ago.
Yeah, I know. I thought that was done. I thought it was a done deal. What the fuck? There's more? But wait, there's more.
But wait.
Okay, so he fucks off with the Tesseract. Hulk fucks Tony's plan up. And so now they're like, damn, we fucked up. And the other team fucked up too, right?
No, so Captain America got the scepter because that's when he has to fight himself.
Right. Yeah, and he was like, that's America's ass.
Yeah, I freaking love that. He was like, that is America's ass. And then even the scene where he's like, he's on the elevator with all of the bad guys from Winter Soldier. And then he's like, "Oh, I'll take that." And you think you're gonna get like the cool elevator fight scene again, and then he leans over to the guy. And he's like,
Hail Hydra.
and they're like, "All right, here you go," and they just give it to him.
That shit was so funny because we knew what was gonna happen. We knew that everyone in there was gonna fuck him or try to beat him up. But then he said that they were so shook. And they're like, "All right, walk out." That was good. That was really good.
So they get the Mind Stone, and Hulk goes to visit the Ancient One, which he doesn't know. He goes to visit the Sorcerer Supreme, which at that point in time was the Ancient One, because she's like, "You're 5 years too early for Doctor Strange to be here. He's still an actual doctor."
Yeah.
And so she like knocks him out of his body, and then they have a conversation, and that's when she talks about like removing Infinity Stones is going to fuck up the timeline, and he's like, "But if we bring them back, then it's not fucked up."
Yeah. And they did like a little cool graphic with like, the gold line, take one out, there's like a dark line that comes from the gold line kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was really good visuals.
And then Hulk mentions that in the future, Doctor Strange gave the Time Stone to Thanos, and you could see she was like super confused. And she was like,
so shocked.
Why would he do that? And he was like, "I don't know." And she was like, "Well, Doctor Strange is supposed to be the best Sorcerer Supreme ever. So if he did something, there was probably a good reason for it." And that's when she decides. She was like, "Yep, okay, here you go.
Yeah.
I trust you."
That was like a really great turn of events for him. Like, because he didn't say that like to make a point. He just kind of said it out of frustration. Right. And then she was like, "Oh wait, like what, really?" And then she was like, "Okay, well, he's the best one, so here you go. Here's the stone."
Yeah. So Tony is the only one that messed up. So him and Captain America have to go back to 1970, I think.
Yeah.
Because the problem is because their problem in the beginning was, he said, because Hank Pym got snapped, they only have a limited amount of Pym particles, which are the things that allow them to shrink and grow and stuff like that.
Right.
So without the ability to shrink down, they can't go into the quantum realm. And if they can't go into the quantum realm, they can't time travel.
Right.
So Tony has the idea. He's like, "I know a place where we can go, where I can get the Tesseract and also get more Pym particles, so that we'll have enough to get back home."
Okay, so that's why they used them, because he stole four vials of those particles.
So they go back to the same base that Captain America was trained at.
Mm-hmm.
And then we even see the bunker that in Winter Soldier, you remember Cap and Black Widow. Excuse me, I'm burping a lot for some reason.
You're good.
Cap and Black Widow go down into that bunker, and then there's like all of the like servers and stuff, and then there's like the little screen that has Dr. Zola on it.
Yep.
That's the same bunker that Tony goes down into.
Okay.
So he goes down in there. Yeah.
Let's also talk about Tony's acting here. How all of a sudden was he such a bad actor? Like, he was nervous. Like, like Tony usually has like, is like in characters like very, very confident, very keen and slippery, kind of like an eel. He knows what to say always. But in these scenes, he was like visually very, very nervous, and like,
I think it just shocked him. And like, he knew that his dad was going to be there, but he didn't expect to interact with his dad.
Okay.
And so that like really threw him off.
Okay, maybe that's why. Yeah. But like that happened even prior to seeing his dad, right? That's why that lady like let out that alarm.
I guess, I don't know, because so
like the elevator scene was what really made me
they're both in the elevator, and then when he leaves, he's like, "Good luck on your mission, Captain," and Steve goes, "Good luck with your project, Doctor."
Yeah. And then of course that lady reports it because she's a good worker.
Yeah, and the thing that she says is, because obviously this is the 70s, and she says that one of them has like I think she says like a hippie beard, and even Howard Stark mentions it later as well. She's like, "Wow, he's got an interesting beard."
Yeah,
like I think that's what made everyone suspicious, because everyone was like, obviously expected to be clean shaven back then. So the
True.
fact that Tony has a beard made them think that he's like some sort of crazy hippie.
Yeah. I mean, his dad had a beard too, though, right? Like a
No, he
mustache?
had a mustache, but
Yeah,
no
mustache.
beard.
Okay, true. Let's see. Let's
But
pause
I
on this timeline real quick and
Okay.
jump way back because there's like just a funny thing that happened when they went to visit Thor. Sorry, I just kind of want to go back.
Yeah, go for it.
Like when we saw that he like really let himself go, he was in that cabin and there was just beer everywhere and it was what Ragnarok was sitting on the couch playing Fortnite and
Oh no, Ragnarok's the movie.
Oh.
The actual rock person is named Korg.
Korg. Yeah, Korg was sitting on like the couch playing Fortnite, and he was like, Thor, Noob Master's back." And then Thor goes, "Noob Master 69." And he like gets on the bike. He's like, "Hey, if you keep like, being mean and saying stuff, I'll come over to your house and, all that stuff." And then he like heard the kid crying, and he's like, "Hell yeah." I love
Yeah.
that scene. That was like great. And then when they were trying to like lure Thor with him because he didn't want to leave, they were like, "Well, we got beer on the ship," and he goes, "What kind of beer on the ship?"
Yeah.
I just wanted to go back to that because I wrote that down. It was a good
Yeah.
part for me. I enjoyed it.
I do have more to say about 1970, but before we go back there, there was actually my first negative in this movie was a very small thing. But so we see when Nebula and War Machine go to get the Power Stone. First of all, hilarious scene. You see like the same intro from Guardian of the
Yeah.
Galaxy with Peter Quill dancing, and then they're just like off on the side, and you just hear him like
Looking at him. Yeah. You hear his like awful like humming singing. And what did they say? They were like,
He was like, "Oh, so he's an idiot."
yeah, so he's an idiot. They're like, yeah.
But then they just knock him out, and then Nebula grabs the Power Stone, and they're about to go back to our timeline. But then right before they go out of there, War Machine actually hits his button, so he leaves. But right before Nebula is about to hit her button, she gets this like super intense headache because we find out that
Right.
because there's two Nebulas in this timeline, they share a network, and so they can like sort of see each other's memories.
Yeah. Which is
And so-
interesting because like it just randomly happened, like
Yeah.
all of a sudden like she started spilling this memory out of her eyeball so that Thanos could see it and
Right.
vice versa. It's just it's very random, I guess, how that happens. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, so Thanos is like looking at his nebula, and he finds out that in the other timeline he ended up getting all the Infinity Stones, and so he's like, "Oh, fuck yeah, I'm like destined to win." But one of the things that the thing that I put down as my negative is while he was looking through his Nebula's memories, there was like the scene of all the Avengers in the conference room trying to like figure out their plan, and then he's like, "What's in that reflection?" And he does like the like cliche CSI thing where he does like zoom and enhance, and then you see in the reflection Nebula in the background.
Right.
And I just like, I mean, it's just I just thought it was too ridiculous.
Again, one of those
Like-
triggering moments for you with the
Yeah,
enhancing.
I was like, obviously it's not a huge deal, but just like I just think it's hilarious when movies and shows are like zoom and enhance.
Yeah. But they enhanced her. They saw her clear as day
Like-
and
That's not how recordings work.
yeah.
But yeah, so tiny negative, but I just thought it was silly.
Yeah. I mean, right when I saw it, I thought of you. I was like, oh, Cayman's going to like this part. I'm sure of it.
But anyway, the big thing that I really liked about Steve and Tony being in 1970 is, well, because we haven't even talked about it yet, but there's also after Steve gets the Pym particles, he has to hide in an office and then finds out that it's Peggy Carter's office, and he sees her in the next room over. And you can tell obviously that he is not like, it's been a long time since he got thawed, but he still has that longing of like going back to his old life.
Oh, yeah.
And so I wrote down here is I just thought it was interesting that you have these two characters in in 1970, and Steve gets a reminder of what he lost, and Tony gets a reminder of what he has, because he has that conversation with his dad, and they end up talking about kids because Howard mentions that his wife is pregnant, and then Tony talks about how he's a father, and so you get like these sort of the same sort of thing that Tony and Steve are often on opposite sides of the same coin, where Steve is in 1970 being like, oh, here is my old life and I miss it and I want to go back to that. Whereas Tony gets an even stronger reminder of like, no, I have my own family and I have a daughter and I need to get back to that time.
Yeah.
And they're like being pulled in opposite directions.
Right. I
just thought that was interesting.
I don't know if I you're talking about the part where he's like talking to his dad, right? Yeah. I don't know. I mean, one of those. I guess I can see where you're coming from. I maybe I took it like too literally. Of like them meeting each other, and then again, it was like a tie back to one of the movies that he had in the past, where he never like said like thank you to his dad or goodbye or I love you or anything or something like that.
Oh no, that for sure. That as well is like being able to have a final conversation with his dad is like the one thing that like one of Tony's biggest regrets.
Right.
And so like you're right, the scene also sort of lets him have that moment with his dad.
Yeah, and he like hugs him too.
It's like yeah, it's like giving him closure with his father. So that's another thing is like he gets this closure with his father and Tony is able to let go of his past and then at the same time realize that he has his own future to get to. Whereas Cap doesn't really, like, obviously he has the Avengers and they're all friends and whatever, but like he doesn't really have anyone present day. And so this trip for him is more of him regaining that connection with his past. Whereas like, yeah, like I was trying to say, like Cap is reconnecting with his past and Tony is letting go of his because he finally gets to have that moment with his dad.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people in this movie. 1 second. Sorry, my cat. I feel like a lot of people in this movie get tested like in their in their own emotional way by seeing people from their past that they have to fight with and like remember like, hey, this is not my world kind of thing.
Right.
And I think that's like a great thing. That's why this whole movie everywhere was just so emotional, is because everyone was seeing people from their past and had to like fight through, that. Like Captain America saw his love, and then Tony saw his dad, and then Thor saw his, mom, all that jazz.
Yeah. So we have one more timeline that we haven't touched on, or I guess not a different timeline, but a different team, which is Natasha and Clint going to Vormir.
Right. Which was very interesting what happened there.
Yeah. I feel like watching it the first time, me personally wanted Natasha to be the one that survived just because I like her character more. I feel like
I'm with you on that.
Hawkeye doesn't, like, I'm not saying he's not important, but like he doesn't really have a lot of growth as a character. Like I feel like in the beginning he's already kind of figured his shit out and he's like, yeah, he's got a family, he's pretty well adjusted. Like obviously after he loses his family he goes on a murderous rampage, but prior to that point Hawkeye hasn't really changed as a character.
Right.
He's just kind of been the same.
Yeah.
And I feel like Nat has done more growing and I feel like that makes her a more interesting character. And so I wanted her to survive. But at the same time, I think it makes more sense for Clint to survive because he has a family to get back to and Natasha doesn't.
Right.
And I think it would be, on a bigger scale, it would be worse if Clint died, because then what, you like bring back his family and be like, hey, guess what? Your dad died to save you. Like, I mean, that would be really sad.
Yeah. She had no one, which is the reason why they just killed her off, which I wasn't aware that she wasn't going to be coming back. Like I noticed she died, but then like she was gone for good. And I was like, oh shit, like they weren't playing around.
Yeah. I mean, in the same way that like Gamora didn't come back either. And like we do get later on, obviously, there's Gamora from the other timeline, but they make it very clear that this is not the same Gamora.
Mhm.
And there's even like when Peter Quill sees her and he like tries to have an emotional moment, and then she like knees him in the nuts. 'Cause
Right.
from her perspective, like she doesn't know who the fuck this guy is.
Right. And she was like, or he was like, you missed the first time, but you got them both the second.
Right. Another small negative that I had is I hate Hawkeye's haircut. I feel like
Oh yeah, it looks
just
way too like punk
really
rock.
distracting. Yeah, when he was like trying to have this emotional scene with him and Natasha, and they're like trying to figure out who's gonna kill themselves, and they're like talking to each other, and I just like could not stop looking at his hair. I was like, bruh.
It didn't distract me that much, but I definitely feel like they could have given him more of a subtle haircut. But then again, it makes sense that he had that haircut because of, you know, how he was introduced at the start of like just, you know, he kind of like lost himself and he was just killing everyone, which he needed a badass haircut for that, you know?
It wasn't badass though. It was a lame ass haircut.
Well, it was punk rock, you know? It was, I don't know. It was edgy.
I feel like if it was just the top, it wouldn't be so bad. But when you see him from the side and like it goes all the way back, it's like almost like a mohawk.
Yeah, it's like a faux hawk.
I just like I feel like the stuff in the back was too much. If it was just the top, it wouldn't be so bad.
I got you. Yeah, his haircut was something that I noticed too.
But yeah, I obviously my next positive is during the battle. So if you have anything before the battle, we should probably talk about that.
Let's see. I mean, prior to the battle was, you know, the scene with Thor and his mom.
Didn't we already talk about that?
Well, kind of, but you know, not the funnies. We talked about that at the very start, where he saw his mom from the future, and then just the one funny. It was like his mom was like when they were saying bye, and she was like, "And eat a salad."
Yeah,
like that's all I just wanted to mention. Yeah, that's really it.
All right.
Alrighty. Yeah, the battle.
Right. So obviously, my first note here is we finally get to see Captain America pick up Mjolnir, which is just a cool moment. And because there was that moment back in Age of Ultron when they're like trying to lift the hammer and it like shifts a little bit when Steve touches it. And then in this one, when he finally grabs it and Thor's like, I knew it.
Yeah, that plays back to like the conspiracy theories that we had that first time, where it's like, you know, Captain knew he could pick it up, but he just didn't want, you know, Thor to feel bad or something like that, or everyone to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he picked that bitch up and he already knew exactly what to do with it. I feel like he fought better with it than like Thor did himself. Like he was using a shield, like bouncing it off the back of his shield and all that stuff.
Yeah, he did great.
It's pretty sick. And then like during the battle, just because we're talking about Mjolnir, how like Thor then had Mjolnir and Captain America had like that big axe.
Yeah.
And Thor was like, no, you get Mjolnir. Like it basically
he's like, you take the small one.
You take the small one. Yeah.
And there was also another thing I thought was there was a moment where Thor had both of them and he was fighting with both, one in each hand. That was also pretty badass.
Yeah. He used that also against Thanos, right? Like to put more weight on it. Because Thanos, he wasn't worthy, but he's just like fucking ridiculously strong, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and it's also a little different because it gets a little sketchy with definitions, but the like spell is that you can only I think Odin's exact words are whosoever wields this hammer. So it could be argued that like as long as you're not wielding the hammer, it's not, you know?
No.
So like
you're saying if Thor is holding the hammer, then I could lift it up? Like by holding he's holding it and then like I can push it up.
I don't know. That's why I'm saying it's a little fuzzy, but like for instance, like when like in Thor Ragnarok when Hela breaks Mjolnir, I don't think that her grabbing it means that she's worthy because she wasn't wielding it. She was just holding it. Do you know what I mean? She is just so strong that she was able to stop it from hitting her, and then also strong enough that she was squeezing it so hard that it couldn't return to Thor. But she wasn't actually like trying to use
it. Interesting. I mean, if that's how it works, then I could see. But that means that like, interesting. That means that that means any regular Joe could lift it up if they just didn't want to use it.
Well, I don't think it has to do with intent. Like, I think like picking it up is using it, but like holding it isn't using it. So like Hela wasn't using the hammer when she grabbed it, and Thanos wasn't using the hammer when he blocked it. But if you tried to pick it up off the ground like that, I think that counts as using it, even if you're just using it to pick it up.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's a very nebulous definition of what counts as wielding the hammer.
Right. To try to explain why what happened kind of thing.
Right. I also really loved, obviously, the shot after all the portals open up. I feel like the portal scene itself was more exciting the first time when I saw it in theaters. This time it didn't excite me so much. What really got me was at the very end when Captain America finally says Avengers Assemble, because he's never said that before in any of the movies.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they've gotten really close a couple times, and they've like hinted at it, like I think also at the end of Age of Ultron, he says Avengers, and then he opens his mouth to say assemble, and then it like cuts to credits. So you never really get it, but then this time he says it, and it like you finally get that payoff, and it just felt really good.
Interesting. See, I didn't know that, so it just kind of slipped right by me. I didn't know he never said that prior to.
Yeah.
Huh. Wait, so where did that saying come from at the start, like from the get-go?
It's just in the comics. It's something that Captain America says often.
Oh, okay, so it was just from the comic books, and then they put it into the real movies kind of thing.
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Wait, why didn't they just use it all the time if it was in the comics and it's a good line?
Yeah, it was just
maybe too corny. I don't know.
They had some reason for it, and I don't know. But I liked that he finally said it this time.
Yeah, so the payoff was good. Let's see. I do want to say and like mention just quickly how unbelievably strong Thanos is.
Yes.
Like unbelievably strong. And it kind of like made me, tilt my head a bit when I thought of when they entered his cabin, and like that battle was just so quick and he was just, down bad. But
he was weakened at that point.
Yeah, he was weakened, that's true. But man, this dude is so strong. He was fighting all of them at the same time without any stones, and was still beating them basically.
We did see though he is he's not stronger than Captain Marvel.
That is true. He was giving him a good
even with the entire gauntlet, she was beating him. The only reason that he ended up beating her is because, remember, he took the Power Stone out of the gauntlet and then separately used that to punch her.
Right. I thought you were talking about Captain America there for a second, but yeah,
no. Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel, yeah. She kind of, yeah. So where does she
definitely
come
stronger
from again?
Than he is. So, well, she's actually from Earth, but something happened to her. She used to be a pilot with the Air Force, and then there was a weird explosion with an experimental plane, and it gave her superpowers. And then somehow she ended up in space, and she thought that she was an alien for a long time, but then she got back to Earth. But obviously she doesn't spend a lot of time on Earth because she keeps telling the Avengers, she's like, there's thousands of other planets that need help, and you guys aren't there, so I'm flying around helping other people. Right.
That's like her explanation of why she's never there.
Yeah,
she's kind of extremely strong. She's
for sure
she's different.
Like, she literally, her introduction is her by herself completely destroying Thanos' ship.
Yeah, like they started shooting her with like all those giant missiles and artillery, and she just flew straight through all of them.
Yeah,
that scene was amazing. Like her flying like horizontally through his ship and then vertically up through it, and then just crash into whatever lake, ocean that was that didn't cause a tidal wave.
I will say, I think, because that leads into my next negative though, is so they're trying to get, once they get the gauntlet, they're trying to get it back to the van that has the time machine in it.
Right.
And it goes from Hawkeye has it, and then I think Black Panther takes it from Hawkeye,
Uh-huh.
and then Spider-Man takes it from Black Panther, and then he gets helped out a little bit by Valkyrie, but then eventually, that was another thing I really liked. I didn't write it down, but I did really like seeing the instant kill mode with Spider-Man.
Oh, right. Yeah, with the those arm leg
Yeah,
spider legs just
he
fucking
just like stabbing
going
all
at
of
it.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. Finally, we saw another one of his modes.
But eventually he gets knocked down, and then Captain Marvel shows up, and she's like, "No, don't worry, I'll take it from here." And so he gives her the gauntlet.
She's like, "Hold my
And
beer."
Right. and then they look over, and pretty much the whole army is coming at them. And Peter's like, "I don't know how you're going to get through all that." And then you see like all of the other female heroes show up, and they're like, "Don't worry, she's got help."
Yeah,
And I know
wrote
it's
that
supposed
down.
to be like such a cool, like, oh, look at all these girl hero moments.
Yeah.
But I just like it just like made zero sense to me. And
all of a sudden, like all the women fighters are like lined up. And, like,
I don't want it to like. Obviously, I'm sure that was important to some people, and representation, yeah, whatever. I'm not trying to like sound like I hate it because they're women, because that has nothing to do with it. I think it is just first of all, a little unbelievable.
I think it's a little too on the
there's
nose.
This giant battlefield, and then out of pure coincidence,
They're all like
every single female hero is right next to each other.
Yeah.
Like not all of them can even fly. Like how did they all get there so quickly?
Right.
I don't know. But then on top of that, that's not even my biggest problem. Peter says, "I don't know how you're going to get through all that." And they're like, "Oh, don't worry, she's got help." I'm like, this motherfucker does not need anyone's help.
No.
She just flew through a spaceship and blew it up with her body. She's like, a couple foot soldiers are not going to stop her. She does not need anyone's help.
Yeah. They should have just gone for fucking Thanos. I don't know who Thanos was fighting the whole time, but
well, I think he was fighting. Well, I don't know actually. He was.
Yeah, he was just kind of.
I know in the beginning he was fighting Iron Man and Captain America and
then he beat them
Thor,
up. And then he was
but
just
then
kind of
he
hanging
beat them
around
up.
or what?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
sure there were shots of him fighting. I just like honestly couldn't tell you who.
I don't remember if there were though. That's the thing. Like
Because at one point he said, he was like, "Oh, rain fire," and then Ebony Maw was like, "Oh, but if we do that, it'll kill our troops."
Yeah.
And he was like, "I don't give a shit, do it anyway." And so that's when they start blasting the ground.
Because
But
he was
I don't
being
remember
beat up by that girl with the red power.
Right, Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
Because she was like,
She
"You
was
took
also beating
everything
his
from
ass.
me,"
Yeah.
and he was like, "I don't even know who you are," and she was like, "You will."
You will. Yeah. And
Yeah.
she was fucking his shit up.
But yeah, like I loved all of the individual moments where they were like, "Hey, look at this badass girl superhero." I'm like totally all about that shit. But just like having them all in a lineup felt a little cheesy to me.
I'm with you. I feel that. Yeah. I think it was, like I said earlier, I think it was just too on the nose. Like I would have loved, like, I think the reason it was too on the nose for me is because they all like were standing there nice and neat. You know, if they had like been fighting and then all of a sudden like they were like fighting them like in a circle and like, you know, it was like a natural kind of occurrence that like they all grouped up, that would have been better. But like they just,
but it was just like, look, we're posing.
Yeah, exactly. It was like a pose, like a poster pose. Like take a picture, we'll put it on the poster.
Right.
Again, like you said, nothing against women fighters. I think it was a good, you know, bow down and like honoring, you know, women in the universe and fighters and all around.
I just think they could have done it better.
I agree.
But yeah, so I think they end up blowing up the van, so they can't do that anymore. And then I don't remember exactly how Thanos gets the gauntlet back.
Well, she's about to go into the van and Thanos like throws his sword at the van.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's what blows it up.
Yeah, which I don't understand how Thanos could throw his sword faster than she can fly, but okay.
I don't know, man. She obviously wasn't trying very hard.
Yeah, she just wasn't.
She was like,
trying.
"I'm just going to fly at a leisurely pace."
Yeah. And then he just like tosses his fucking sword and blows it up and stops her from being able to leave. But yeah, so he blows it up with that, and then the gauntlet like flies basically to him, right?
Yeah.
And then there's like a quick struggle of like Captain America trying to get it away from him.
Yeah.
Her holding his hands apart. But then Iron Man comes in.
Yeah. So I think Iron Man does it first, and he throws Iron Man off, and then Captain America gets thrown off, and then Captain Marvel comes back and she gets thrown off. And so they're all beaten and Thanos is putting the gauntlet back on. And then Tony looks over to Doctor Strange and he like holds up the one finger to remind him, he's like, hey, there's only one way that we come out on top in this situation. And he doesn't say anything, but like you can tell that Tony at that moment knows what he has to do.
Yeah. And I think Tony was also like prepared for it, you know?
Yeah.
Like he made his suit to be able to do that, apparently. And then what happens here?
And so while he's struggling with Thanos, we don't see it happen, but he like struggles with him. He grabs the gauntlet for a little bit and then Thanos throws him off and he's like, oh, I win. And he tries to snap again and then nothing happens. And then he realizes that he doesn't have any of the stones because in that quick split second when Iron Man was grabbing the gauntlet, he like snagged the stones off of him and put them onto his own suit.
Yeah, which I'm sure was like because he built both suits. Like I'm sure they were built for that. Like they traded positions maybe.
Iron Man's suit is made of nanoparticles, so they can do literally anything.
Right. And so Iron Man then has the stones. Thanos realizes this, and then Iron Man says, "And I am Iron Man."
Yeah.
And then he snaps.
And then we see all of Thanos' army gets dusted, and Thanos like obviously realizes he's been beaten, and so he just like goes and sits down and
sits
just
down.
Like, fuck.
Like, dang it. Yeah. We forgot to mention though that at the start of this battle, when they had like a talk with Thanos before they were fighting, he had like this little epilogue of like him saying like now he realizes that he made a mistake by leaving half the civilization alive because there's always going to be retaliation. And so his mission the second time around was to just dust the whole universe.
Yeah. He was like, I'm just going to start from scratch because if there are people alive that remember what it was like before, there's always going to be resistance.
Right. And so they had more to fight for. I just wanted to put that in there real quick because we didn't mention that.
Yeah.
But so, you know, Iron Man snaps his fingers, his army gets dusted, and then it goes to like another extremely, extremely emotional moment of the team surrounding Iron Man.
Yeah. And I will say, so I think I put it in my negative category, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that Tom Holland is so freaking good at being sad, but I feel like it was harder for me to feel his sadness this time because we already got sad Tom Holland at the end of the last movie. Like we already had the moment where when Spider-Man was being dusted and he was like, Mr. Stark, I don't want to go. And like that shit was emotional as fuck.
Yeah.
But I feel like this time with Tony dying and he runs over there and is doing the whole Mr. Stark thing, this one didn't hit me as hard. And I don't think it's because Tom Holland did a bad job. I think it's just because it feels very similar to that other scene. And so
I see. Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But when Pepper goes up and she's like just sitting there with him and they hold hands, and then you can see like he is just holding on to his last inch of life, and then Pepper just tells him, hey, we're gonna be okay. And that also made me cry, just like realizing that literally the only thing left in Tony's mind at this point is thinking about his wife and his daughter, and just getting the reassurance that like, hey, you saved us, we're going to be okay now, and so you don't have to hold on any longer.
Right. I'm with you on that. Yeah, that was extremely emotional. And one of my negatives is that Tony dies. I did not appreciate that at all. I was not a fan. I think they pushed that button too much. I don't know.
What do you mean
starting the movie off with they started the movie off with, you know, giving this long intro of Tony dying.
Yeah.
And then they end the movie with this long intro of Tony being dead.
Yeah, perhaps it could have been more effective if he didn't almost die in the beginning.
Yeah. Why kill him off though? Like why, you know?
Well, from a practical reason, because no one wants to be doing the same movies for the rest of their lives. So
that's
Robert
true.
Downey Jr. has already done like 20 of them, and he was probably just done.
Yeah. You think he asked for it? He was like, please.
But aside from that, it feels like a fitting end to that character. Like, I don't really know where else he could have gone from there.
Where else he could have died? I guess I can see that. I mean, he could have always passed it on to someone else, like his Iron Man knowledge and stuff.
Yeah, but then he'd like still be around, and what's he gonna do? Just like sit in the background and not help?
Kinda, yeah. I don't know. Or like every now and then he gets like a feature of like they need help and Tony could be there.
Right.
Kind of like they do with what's his name? The agent in black. What's his name? He only showed up at the very end on the porch at the funeral. With the eye patch.
Freaking Nick Fury.
Nick Fury, yeah. Like they'd kind of do with him, you know? He comes in every now and then, like they killed him off and then he came back because he was alive and he's just very feature kind of driven.
I feel like I appreciate that things have an end. Like, yeah, everyone has to die eventually.
I get that, but if you imagine like all the kids out there that like, you know, dress up in their Halloween Iron Man suits and all of that stuff, and they watch this movie and Iron Man dies, like, I don't know. I feel like that's tough. Like no one cared about Black Widow.
For sure it's tough.
Yeah. And like all these fucking kids at the end of this movie, their favorite love character dies, and like now what, you know?
Well, that doesn't mean they can't dress up as him anymore.
No, he's dead. Can't dress up as him. But you know what I mean?
No rule
like as a, I don't know. I feel like for a Marvel universe, right? Why kill off one of your best characters, if that makes sense? I don't know.
Because it wouldn't be as emotional. Like you said, like, not saying no one cared about Black Widow, but like her dying isn't as big of a deal. And so, if you want to get that strong emotional reaction out of people, you have to kill someone important. You're not going to get it if you're like, oh yeah, like Okoye died. Like, ooh, wow, cool.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I don't know. It just hurt a lot when I saw him die. I was like, fuck, man. Like, I liked Iron Man a lot. Like, I loved his humor. I loved, you know, him being in the movies. Great actor, good looking guy. You know, all the stuff. Now he's dead.
We also, it obviously doesn't die, but we pretty much lose Captain America too.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, he just lives out his life with his.
Yeah, he goes back and puts all the Infinity Stones back, which a thing that obviously it wouldn't have fit tonally in this movie, but I would have appreciated if there was like just like a separate scene, because I really would like to see what it's like with him going back to Vormir, since the Guardian there is Red Skull, which was his enemy in the first Captain America movie. I would love to see what that interaction was like, where he shows up and then Red Skull is like, Steve Rogers, and he's like, what?
Low key, yeah, true. Interesting. Yeah, I didn't think of that. Huh. Yeah, those would have been good interactions. Maybe they'll come out with another movie at one point. The Captain America Adventures of Returning those Stones. I don't know.
Yeah, so he returned the stones, and then he just decided, hey, I'm gonna stick around with Peggy and just be a normal dude.
Yeah, live out a normal life. And they were like, "Where's Captain America? He didn't come back in time." And they look over at a bench, and he's sitting on the fucking bench.
Yeah, and he's just like 80 years old.
Yeah, an old man. Do you think that bench scene made sense?
Did you think it didn't?
I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't know how he could have been there, if that makes sense.
So he obviously had Pym particles with him to return to this timeline. Mm-hmm. So, and there are different interpretations of it, and you can find all sorts of different explanations online. But the way that makes the most sense to me is because it has already been explained that whenever they go to the past, they're not traveling to their past. They're traveling to a different timeline.
Right.
So, like, some people are like, oh yeah, Captain America just went back to the past, and then he just like waited 70 years, and then just like he knew that he had to be at that bench on that day, and so he just like walked there.
That's how I took it.
But I don't think that's what happened, because in order for him to be on that bench, like taking the long way around, that would mean that he would have had to travel back to his own past. But from the way that the time travel works in the rest of the movie, every time they go back in time, they're going to a different timeline. So I think what happened was Captain America went to, like, we're in timeline A. At the end, Captain America went to timeline B, lived out his life with Peggy Carter, and then after she died, he used the remaining Pym particles to travel back to timeline A. But his life with Peggy Carter is in a separate timeline than the one that we're in now.
Wait, so Captain America does age?
Yeah. Did you think he was like immortal or something?
No, I mean, he was stuck in the ice, which is why I didn't age the first time, right?
Right.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh,
Can you
okay.
hear me?
I didn't hear the yeah. Okay,
No.
so yes. Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
That makes sense. I just remember, I think you're cutting out. Are you talking right now?
No.
Oh, my bad. I just remember, in some other movie, obviously he was in a different timeline, like so many years later, and he hadn't aged
Hmm.
and all that stuff. So maybe that's where I came up with like he ages slower kind of thing because of the juices he was pumped up with.
Yeah, I don't know. He might age a little bit slower, but I honestly don't. I don't think it affects his aging.
Okay.
It just because like the point of the super soldier serum is just it makes him like he's like at the top limit of human ability. Like he doesn't
Yeah.
have super strength. He's just like as strong as a human can possibly be. That's how strong he is.
Which is really fucking strong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that happens. The owner was at the funeral, right? Or one of the makers of the Marvel. He was at the funeral, right?
No.
Say what?
Nope.
No?
There was the Stan Lee cameo happened in 1970. He was the one where he drives by the military base.
Oh shit. Well,
He's
then
like screaming out the window.
maybe I missed that part.
No.
Damn, I thought he was one of the guys that was at the funeral
Nah.
because he looked kind of like him, but I guess not. Okay. Well,
And then Joe Russo, one of the directors, also made a cameo. He's the one at the beginning when at the support group with Captain America. Joe Russo is the one talking about like, oh, I finally went on another date and I might see him again or whatever.
Okay. So he did the same thing then. Kind of stole the thunder, being a cameo.
I mean, lots of people are cameo in their movies. I think Joe Russo's
fair.
even been in an MCU movie before. He was in Civil War
Oh, okay.
when
Cool.
I can't remember the bad guy's name in that movie now.
In Civil War?
Yeah.
I mean, you're asking the wrong guy.
Yeah, I know. Hold on, I'll just look it up.
Zemo?
Zemo. Yeah.
Helmet Zemo.
Yeah. So when
Yeah, that guy.
there was a scene where Zemo was at a hotel and he gets room service, and then the room service lady's like, "Oh, I can bring it in for you." And he's like, "No, I've got it myself." And then he like takes the food, and then it like pans over into
The shower.
Into the shower, and there's a dead guy in there. That dead guy is also Joe Russo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's funny. That's tough. Interesting.
So Captain gives the shield to Falcon, and Winter Soldier Bucky is like, yeah, go ahead, take it, do your thing.
Yeah, which that doesn't make sense to me because Falcon isn't a superhuman.
And
So how
you don't
can
need
he
to be
be
superhuman
Captain
to be
America?
Captain America.
You don't?
No,
You don't think so?
I think being Captain America, I mean, even from the beginning, has been more about
Morals
the
and stuff
symbolism of it. Yeah,
like
like
that?
he as a person represents like the ideal, like selfless nature kind of a person.
Yeah.
And Sam obviously does that a lot better than Bucky does, and Bucky knows it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Bucky had a bad past.
He's like, "Nah, I'm not good enough to take that shield. That's on you."
Yeah. I like that Passover. It was cute. It was touching.
Yeah.
And then the whole movie ends with like them showing a scene from like the past where Cap was with his wife back in the day.
Yeah.
And then that just ends it.
He finally gets that dance.
Yeah. I mean, do you think that was a good ending to this movie?
I think so.
Okay. I don't know. I thought it was a little bit, I don't know. I think it was I don't know. It didn't make sense because it's supposed to be about like the Marvel team and then it ends with Cap.
Well, yeah, because he
like getting his dance.
An important part of the Marvel team.
Yeah. I don't know. The whole thing was just a sad ending. I feel like super long, drawn out funeral, and then Cap being old and finna die, and then it ends with Cap dancing in like the past.
I think it was nice to end on like a simple, sweeter moment than like previous movies trying to like, oh, we're gonna end with like trying to set up the next thing, or like, oh, here they're going on another adventure. But this one's just like, nope, this movie is the end of the Infinity Saga. So they really made it clear that we're not trying to like, yes, there are other Marvel stuff after this movie, but they're not trying to like, oh, go look at the new Marvel stuff. No, it's just like, nope, this is the end of this story. We're going to cut it off here. Captain America gets his happy ending.
Yeah. Well, good. That was this 3-hour-long movie, and
Indeed,
the Avengers
indeed.
won. They were the winners. So let me ask you, does this
Yes.
end the Marvel series, or you were alluding to prior that there's more?
There is more. So this, and we'll get into this because you might have a little bit of homework from here on out because things will get a bit more complicated.
All right.
Because after this movie is when shortly after this movie is when Disney Plus launched.
Okay.
And with Disney Plus came the Marvel TV series. And so now, like, the universe has expanded to a point where not only, like, yes, like we talked about before, a lot of the movies are like, if you kind of know what's happening, you can watch a movie out of context and be like, oh, I get enough of it. But there's a lot more pieces now. And so rather than just being like, oh, hey, if you watch all the movies, you'll know what happens. Now there's like all of the movies plus all of these TV shows on Disney
Lord
Plus
have mercy.
that are also connected to the movies.
Dude, what? That just makes it so much more complicated.
I mean, yeah.
Is that what the people want, you think?
I mean, I think more content is what people want, and people that care are going to watch all of it. So Disney
That's
gets to
true.
make more money, which is what they want.
Yeah.
But it's not like I was talking about on the last episode, it's not like this is like a new concept, because this is the same sort of shit that happened with actual comic books. You'd have like, here's this 12 series Iron Man run, and then at some point you'll get like open one of the books and like Hulk is there, and you're like, well, why is Hulk here? But then if you go and read this separate like Hulk comic book series, you're like, oh, well, that's why Hulk is here now, because he did this thing in this other comic book. Like, you're really never going to get anything unless you read everything, which is why I never got into reading comic books, because I knew from the beginning that I would not be able to do that.
And you didn't want to do that?
What?
And you didn't want to do that?
I didn't want to because I knew I couldn't. There's no possible way I would be able to read every single comic book.
True.
So I was like, I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to like let it be its own thing.
Yeah.
I will like, I know things about the comic books because I like do a lot of research, but I've never actually read, I think I've maybe read one Marvel comic and I don't even remember what it was.
Damn, that's impressive. Wow. So yeah, they're all kind of intertwining into each other.
Yeah. So that's why what I was alluding to before is when during the time heist, when 2012 Loki picks up the Tesseract and goes poof. So that is actually the first Marvel TV show. Is there is a Loki series that shows you what happens to that Loki.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Very cool. Oh, did you already watch it, I guess?
Yeah, I've watched everything. I'm completely caught up. We're just trying to catch you up.
Damn. That's dope.
But yeah. So I mean, obviously, like, if you want to watch all the shows, you can. They're usually only about 8 episodes a season, so it's not a lot to watch.
Yeah.
But also, like, I know you're busy, so if you like, I'll try to keep you updated with important stuff, or if there's like, if something comes up and I'm like, oh, you need to at least watch this episode, then I'll let you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
or just give me the spoilers, you know.
But you would definitely understand more if you just watched them.
Yeah, just watch a ton of, you know, a lot of series of stuff and things.
I mean, there's what? Hold on. So right now there is WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, Hawkeye, Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, and She-Hulk. There are 8 series out right now.
Dude, that's a lot.
Yeah. I can tell you right now,
smokes.
you don't need to watch What If, because that one is not connected. That's like a separate story.
Okay.
Moon Knight is really good. I would suggest that. Hawkeye's pretty good too, actually. I don't know if it'll necessarily like, I don't know if you need to watch that one. I could summarize that one pretty easily for you. Miss Marvel is probably gonna be important.
Yeah.
I can't judge at this point how important She-Hulk is going to be in the future of the MCU.
I saw that
Um,
series. I was like, what is this?
Loki is important on like a top level sort of like you don't really need to know what happens in the series. You just need to know the result of the series, which so I could explain Loki to you as well.
Uh-huh.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier is absolutely nothing special.
Wait,
And
what?
WandaVision, I think, is probably, at least because a lot of these other ones, I don't know what's happening after them.
Mm-hmm.
WandaVision, I already know. I already know what the result of the WandaVision television series is in the movies. Like there's another film coming up that we're probably going to review that takes place after the WandaVision series. So I know I can already tell you with that show, like, this is something that's important for the future. This is something that's not important for the future. But I don't really know that with the other shows because they're just sort of out there right now. So who knows what's
Yeah.
going to come up in the future or not.
Okay. Interesting.
But we can discuss that more later. But yeah, just be aware that there's more happening now.
Okay. I'm aware.
All right. Are you ready to get into trivia?
I think so. Let's do it.
All right.
Hey, do we?
There's not a whole lot here. There definitely was, like, when I was going through the trivia, there were a lot of them were like 2 paragraphs long, and I was like, I'm not gonna read that.
This is too much.
This is too much. So I gathered up a short little group here. Our first one is that although it would still be devastating, cutting the Earth's current population in half would only take us back to where we were in the 90s.
Damn.
Yeah. So Thanos obviously doesn't understand, I guess, how reproduction works or something like that. But the population of the Earth in the 90s was already half of what it is today. So
Wow. Yeah.
at most he saved everyone 20 years and then they would be right back in the same situation.
Right back in the same boat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
For the title card of this movie, only half of the orchestra was playing.
Wait, what do you mean?
Like when they do the big title card and it says Avengers Endgame,
Yeah.
and they have the Avengers theme playing, in this movie only half of the instruments were there for that music.
Oh, weird. Wait, why?
Because half of them got dusted.
Oh, that's why. Oh my god. Okay, that makes sense.
The opening Hawkeye scene was originally conceived as part of the finale of Avengers Infinity War, but because Hawkeye wasn't in the rest of that movie, the Russo brothers moved the scene to the beginning of this film.
Okay.
And like I said, I think it worked a lot better at the beginning of this movie than it would at the end of the last one, because, I mean, well, like I just said, Hawkeye was not in Infinity War at all, so it would be kind of random to just be like, let's cut to Hawkeye now.
Yeah.
But it also, like, it really helps at the beginning of this movie to, like, shove everyone back into the right mindset of, like, this is what's happening in the world. People are losing people that they care about, and it's like, we're in a bad spot right now. And I feel like that was just an easy way to put everyone back into that emotional state, to be like, oh, look, Hawkeye teaching his daughter how to shoot arrows. Just kidding, they're all dusted, fuck you. And you're just like, ah.
You're like, ow, fuck. Take it back.
This is the first and presumably the only film where Robert Redford has returned to play a role for a second time. Robert Redford plays Alexander Pierce, who is the head of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
And it says in his 59-year career, he has otherwise never played the same role twice in a franchise.
Oh, wow. Damn. Really?
Yeah. But he did a brief little scene here. I believe it was after, it was during the New York scene when they get down to the elevator. And what you remember, he's arguing with Tony, and that's when Ant-Man gives Tony the, like, little heart attack.
Yeah.
But the person that he's arguing with is director Pierce.
Okay, I see.
But after this movie came out, Robert Redford announced that he was retiring. So unless he comes out of retirement for some reason, this is his last role, which is kind of weird, but also the only time that he has played the same character twice.
Oh, wow. Okay. Damn. That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's really impressive. That's a good fact.
Yep. And that is my last one.
Ah, ended on a banger.
Short list, but that's what I got.
Yeah. It's a long movie, man. It is a long movie.
Faux show.
Well.
And I have got for us a surprise that I did not warn you about, and I probably could have, but
I cannot believe
I'm going to take this opportunity to introduce a new segment to our podcast.
Oh, okay.
We're going to call this Get Wrecked.
Get wrecked? Nice. Okay.
And of course, rec in this situation stands for recommendation. So you're going to just take a second and, just like if there's any movies that you've seen, any games that you've played, books that you've read, concerts you've been to, just like something that you would recommend for our listeners to experience.
Oh, interesting. Do you want to go first? I'm sure you already have something in mind.
Yeah. So I actually recently, in the spirit of the Halloween season, although by the time this episode comes out, it probably won't be October anymore, but but I recently watched a movie called Tucker and Dale versus Evil, which is like a kind of like a not really a spoof, but like it's playing on the tropes of, like the kind of horror movies where it's like a bunch of teenagers go out to the woods and then they slowly get killed one by one.
Yeah.
It's like that sort of a movie, but the quote unquote killers are like just two rednecks that are like they're not murderers at all.
They're killers.
Yeah, they're not killers. They're just like two innocent dudes out in the woods trying to live their life, and like all of this crazy shit just starts happening around them, but everyone blames them for it.
Interesting. Okay.
So really funny horror movie, and I would recommend it.
Okay. Well, I see how you want to structure this. Let me do this real quick. Give me 1 second just to make sure I have that. Okay, well, there's this app called Calm, and I highly recommend it. You can like choose different plans. It's an app, and basically, it is a meditation app for users, and I think it is extremely helpful in like tough situations / even just to fall asleep / to connect with your body and, help sort through things in life. And that is a positive. I've been using that for like the last 2 weeks ish, and
You said it's called Calm?
Calm, CALM. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Highly recommend it. There's things on there from like sleep meditations to like anxiety meditations, work meditations, if you want to get pumped up, that kind of stuff, breathing exercises. And they're basically like, people walking you through and going through like this meditation with you. Highly recommend it. Calm.
Cool.
Not an ad, but, wish it were.
Yeah. I would just like to say, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. Tell your friends and family about us. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram @CashFanPod. If you want to send us a message, you can do so on either of those platforms, or you can send an email to casualfanaticpodcast@gmail.com. There are links for all three of those in the description.
Heck yeah. If you have any like movie recommendations, send them to us. If there's just even something on your mind, or if you liked our recommendations at the end of things to do / things to not do, let us know.
All right. Well, this has been Casual Fanatic. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.